Well, hello everyone. Happy Wednesday afternoon. Another sunny Wednesday here in Napa Valley, and I have two great tasters with me today. We're going to actually be taking two wines through the systematic approach to tasting, and we're calling this one "Guess the Grape Variety." So our two guests are going to talk about the wine, describe it, taste it, and then it's going to be up to you to decipher what they're tasting. Should be a lot of fun. So let me get my mug off the screen and bring on Catherine Bouguet, our director of education, and Peter Marks, master of wine. Hey guys.
Good. Thank you so much, Christian.
Hey,
So
This is
Christian,
going to be
thank you.
good fun for a Wednesday afternoon.
yeah,
Are
take
you
it
ready,
away.
Peter? All right,
I'm
great.
ready.
All right.
Ladies first.
Thank you so much. I'll start us off. So wine number one. So it's a white wine, and I'll take it through the level three systematic approach just to give it some structure. And then we'll talk about the options on what it might be afterwards. So my wine here, you can see. Of course, it's going to be hard for you to see the intensity of it, but we'll talk about the intensity and color first. When I go ahead and tilt my wine, I have a wide, watery rim. And to me, that indicates it's a pale wine, so pale intensity. Then I go ahead and I look at the color, and I don't have, green. I don't have any orange or brown, so I can't call it gold. Whether I think I see gold highlights or not, remember, that doesn't matter at the level three. It's all about only call it gold if there's some orange or brown in the wine. So because there's not, my wine is going to be lemon. So I have a pale lemon wine. Now let's go ahead on the nose. So I'm going to put the glass up and see whether I can be able to describe the wine without even actively sniffing. Because if I can, it's going to be pronounced. Not for this one. So then I'm going to go ahead and swirl. I'm going to smell. Is it light? Is it hard for me to draw out aromas? Not at all. Now I'm getting all of these different things. So I'm not light. That means I'm in the medium camp. And now that I'm in the medium camp, now I've got a new 3-point scale. Am I going to stay at medium? Am I going to smell that, they're not that intense, so I need to bump it down to medium minus? Or once I smell it, I'm like, wow, I'm getting this, and this. And I say, okay, I have to bump it up to medium plus. For me, I'm like, this is fantastic. I'm getting this Meyer lemon and orange rind and, this white floral, elderflower, acacia, peach, pear, such fun things in this wine. So because I'm getting all of that, I'm going to call it a medium plus. I can't change my mind to pronounce because I didn't call it pronounced in the beginning. I went to the medium camp. And so once I'm there, that's when I move it up to medium plus. Okay, so for the nose, I'll just reiterate some of these aromas, just so you can think about the grape variety. Meyer lemon, orange, like it's orange peel, orange rind, even the white. Pear, peach, apricot, so there's stone fruit in there, but there's citrus fruit, white floral, but like elderflower and acacia. And remember, if you're not familiar with all of your, white flowers, you can just put white floral down, but it can be fun to get to know them. So if you can head off to a floral shop and get to know the difference, it just adds to your vocabulary. But anyway, I digress. So all of these things that I'm mentioning are primary, right? I don't really have any obvious secondary, and I don't have any tertiary. And I have a very, there's nothing in here. There's no tertiary that would, like honey and hay, that would lead me off to say that this wine is developing. So my wine is youthful. My wine is youthful because there's only primary. If I had some secondary, it would still be youthful. It's only when you add on some tertiary that it's showing maturity that you'd move it off to developing or even more maturation. So anyway, youthful. Okay, now I get to taste this puppy. Okay, I'm going to take it on the palate. No perceptible sugar, so it's a dry wine. I'm going to go ahead and I do a count-off system for the acid. I'm salivating. Still salivating. Still salivating. I'm still salivating. I'm going to call this high acid. There was a moment where I thought, are we on the line here? A lot of times in the level 3, the grader of your wine note can go ahead and make 2 choices. You can't. Anybody who's taking the exam, you can only choose one. But say one person put medium plus or one person put high. In only 2 instances, the grader can say, okay, I see that this wine is on the fence. So I'm going to say medium plus or high for this wine, but my perfect answer would be high. So now we know we've got this bright, juicy acidity. So dry wine with higher acid. Let's talk about the body. This has a nice medium weight. It's not full-bodied. It's not light. I'm in the medium. And I'm thinking this is just a beautiful medium body. There's a little bit of weight there. And something in the flavors, which I'll get to in a minute, makes me think that maybe there's some skin contact on this wine. Okay, so, and in fact, I even feel a tiny bit of tannin. So, but anyway, on a white wine, there is no point for tannin. But I would say there's some light tannin here. For the alcohol, I didn't look at the alcohol. I'm going to guess it's medium. I feel a little bit of warmth. I'm going to peg it as medium, but between medium and it would just barely be. It would just barely be 14. So I'm going to guess 13.5 to 14. So a nice medium to barely, high alcohol. My flavor intensity, how intense that flavor is, across the palate. Same as on the nose. I've got a great medium plus intensity. So great intensity. And the things that I'm getting on the palate are almost all the same, pretty much the same, although I'm really noticing a little bit of that bitterness. I'm still going to call it, though, put it in sort of the orange peel, lemon peel category, or that lemon orange pith, which isn't on your SAT card, but I would be adding it in. The grader can go ahead and add in things that they find. So I would be adding that. But there's lemon, citrus, orange peel, lemon peel. There's that white floral popping out again. Lots of different things. Acacia. That's pretty much for the palate. Anybody remember how many flavor descriptors you need to have for full points? It's 3. You have to have 3. But as Peter and I will always tell you, write more. Just in case one of your descriptors doesn't work, you'll still have a chance at full points. So always write a few more. So let's talk about the finish of this wine. That lemon, citrus, and orange peel. Citrus, orange peel, it keeps going. Citrus, orange peel. And then it starts to die off. And I'm left with a little bit of bitterness. But there's just that beautiful. I'm going to peg it as medium plus, a medium plus finish for this wine. So let's talk about, let me go ahead and just do the quality conclusion, just so you have that, but when we use the Blick system, right? Balance, length, intensity, and complexity. For the balance, we're looking at the balance of the fruit structure versus the other structural components, your acid, your alcohol, your tannin, if there's tannin. So you're looking at the balance of that. And there's beautiful, nice fruit here that balances out that high acidity. So this is a nicely beautiful, balanced wine. Length, it didn't go for the long length, so it doesn't get the check for the L. Intensity, absolutely, it had medium plus. If you have either medium plus or pronounced on either the aromas or the flavors, you want to give it that check. So go ahead and give it intensity. So now we've got balance and intensity. Complexity, how many clusters do I have? Is this complex enough? I didn't have secondary and tertiary, but do I have enough? You can get complexity just from primary if you've got many different clusters. And I had floral, I had citrus, I had white fruits, I had a number of things that make me think, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and give this the check for complexity. So I've got 3 out of the 4. And when I have 3 out of the 4, that means that I take that, whether it's acceptable, good, very good, or outstanding. If you've got all 4 of those, your wine is outstanding. If you have 3 of those things, it's very good. 2 of those things, it's good, and 1 is acceptable. And I had 3, so that means what? Was anybody listening? Okay, anyway, it was very good, very good. And what about this wine? Would you, buy cases of it and be excited about, opening it up 3+ years from now? Is this a wine that you would that I would recommend to a customer to go ahead and age? 2 questions you have to ask yourself to answer that question. 1, does it have something structurally that will allow it to age? Absolutely, that high acid, that's going to let it go. However, it's not just that. Like a basic Pinot Grigio could have high acid, but that doesn't mean that you should, put a case of it down and be excited about drinking it in 5 years. Same thing, I think, with this wine, although, it will last and it might be really fun to drink 3-4 years from now, but you have to ask yourself that second question. Will it get more interesting? Will you add on, as it matures, will you add on this wonderful tertiary, making it even more interesting than it is today, so that you should wait to drink some of it? The answer is no here. Drink this beautiful citrus and stone fruit with this juicy acid. Drink this wine now. So you'd say, drink now, not intended for aging. Okay, so that's the note. I'm going to go ahead, Christian, if you would post the note so that viewers can determine, read it over. As I mentioned, options for the grape varieties.
Yes, so it's up and take it away.
Okay, great. So given that you're seeing the note and thinking about what we just talked about, let's pull out structural things. It's got you want to keep in mind a lot of times when you're tasting blind, you want to, not just start with aromas and flavors, because that can throw you off, but start with the structure. So we've got this high acid, right? We've got medium body. We've got, sort of medium to high alcohol. We want to keep these things in mind. We've got intensity. We've got flavor, aroma, and flavor intensity. So maybe we're dealing with an aromatic or a semi-aromatic grape variety. And now let's consider those aromas that we have. We had a little citrus, stone fruits, we had floral. What could be? Think of one of your choices is Riesling, right? You've got some intensity there. You've got the floral. You've got, the acid. Consider Riesling. So that's choice number 1. What about choice number 2? What else is floral? Let's use Torrontés. Torrontés is floral. It's also aromatically intense. Maybe has a medium body. I would guess that a lot of those would be medium alcohol. There could be a few outliers, at 14 maybe, just making it slightly higher. So choice 1 is Riesling. Choice number 2 is Torrontés. Choice number 3, Gruner Veltliner, right? We're dealing with sort of the same level of acid. If we look back at our notes, what else did we have in there? I mentioned some phenolic bitterness. Gruner can have that too in the finish of its wine. So maybe you want to consider Gruner. Okay, 2 more. What about Albarino? You've got acid with Albarino. You've got some citrus fruits there. It can have stone fruit. It can have sometimes that phenolic bitterness. Some of the wines are, have some skin contact, just like Gruner can. So Albarino is your next choice. And one more. Your last choice is Sauvignon Blanc. Got high acid. We've got citrus. We've got intensity. Is it Sauvignon Blanc? Okay, those are your choices. And then I'll go ahead and review.
So we have a couple of choices here, Catherine. We have some people saying Riesling, and someone else said Pinot Grigio, although that wasn't a choice right there. But someone did say Albarino, also Albarino. So a little bit all over the place. Someone said maybe even unoaked Chardonnay. So
okay, I like that. And those are all great options. But I think that in Pinot Grigio was one that I was almost going to add in, because it can have, some of that phenolic bitterness depending on the region and where it's from. But are you ready for the answer?
Let's do it.
It's Albarino. This is a Rias Baixas 218. I'll go ahead and show the bottle again, but let's talk about this for just another minute. Riesling sometimes, yes, it had that high acid, it had some citrus, stone fruit, but you can, depending on the style of Riesling, you might get some botrytis, you might get that famous petrol, and you might even have even more intensity, on the nose, even more of a pronounced. For the Torrontes, usually the Torrontes that I've been seeing lately, they're all even more floral than the Albarino. So really floral, but, on point with the acid, about the same level. So I could see, why people might think that. For the Gruner, I guess nobody thought it was Gruner, but I thought that was a great, choice. They share phenolic bitterness. They have sort of the same aromatic intensity, the same general alcohol, although even Gruner has different styles, kind of like, Riesling does. If you have the, I think Chris once said to me, you have to speak Klingon to say it, Schmacht. If you have that style, you might even get a little botrytis, which may make you, confuse Gruner and Riesling. But with our Sauvignon Blanc, we generally you don't have the phenolic bitterness in general, and you also would add on pyrazines. So you'd add on some fresh grass, that springtime, grassiness. You usually add something on that, or like green pepper or something like that. But for us, this was, the Albarino, has those what we call terpenes, right? That sort of floral stone fruitness, so, and can have that phenolic bitterness from contact on the skins. Usually does have medium plus to high acid. Intensity, medium plus intensity is really spot on. And just the aromas and flavors then follow in suit. Normally the alcohol would be medium. And let me go ahead and look up the, it's a nice big numbers for me. So it's 14%. So it's just right on. So it's considered high, 14, when you use the WSET grid. Okay, that's my note. Now I can't wait to hear what Peter's is.
Great. So let's give it on over to you, Peter. Excited for your note as well. Great job, Catherine. Thank you.
Yes, that was wonderful. I mean, talk about easily confused whites. I mean, all of those grapes you just talked about, I find, especially with the high acidity as being a common thread, it's not easy to do blind tastings, but you gave good reasons why it would be one grape over another. So very good. So I have another white wine, and I will do my appearance. And this wine, wow, it's a little deeper than the previous wine, or a little more intensity. So it is clear. I don't know if you can see it there, but I'll hold it up a little bit. But to me, it's more of a medium lemon, because when I hold it over a white background, the color goes almost entirely to the rim and certainly to the sides. So it's almost completely the same when I hold the glass at the angle. So I'm going to clear medium lemon. With the nose, I don't have to get it very close, and I'm already picking up some aromas. So I'm thinking, is this intense, or pronounced intensity? But it's not quite there. So I am picking up some different aspects, and it's not just a monolithic aroma. It's not just a one note aroma. I'm getting some fruit. I'm getting a little secondary and tertiary, as I'll describe here in a minute, but it's got more than one thing going on. So I'm going to say that's medium plus, definitely more than medium, but not quite enough for the pronounced intensity. I'll get back to the development of the wine after I describe some of the aromas, but I do get some floral aspects, a little bit of blossom, like a white blossom. And I do get apple, I get some pear, definitely lemon as citrusy notes, maybe a hint of lime at the same time. And there's also some stone fruit, a little bit of peach. Melon, also grapefruit, like a fresh grapefruit. It's definitely grapefruit season right now. And, there's a little bit of a minerality, like a stony character. I wouldn't say a wet stone, but just like a sort of like a warm stone and it's sitting out there in the sun. And there's a little secondary aroma. So those are my primary aromas. The secondary, I get a hint of vanilla, not very much, and just a smidgen of a toasty character. So I think there is some oak influence, but it's certainly more in the background. And then finally, there's a hint of tertiary, a little bit of a dried apple, maybe a dried pear, and a little bit of honey as well. Okay, so those are all my aromas. And I'll say, I'll give you sort of my thinking as I'm going along. If I was doing this wine blind, in my mind, I'm already thinking this is a wine that has some oak influence. So I'm thinking, what grape varieties might that be? Certainly Chardonnay comes into mind, Sauvignon Blanc, Semillon. Sometimes Chenin Blanc can be oak aged, Viognier, although it's not quite as aromatic as a Viognier might be. But at the same time, there's that stoniness, which to me pushes me over into the old world. That's kind of it doesn't have, even though the intensity is medium plus, it doesn't have that really ripe, opulent fruit character. So it seems more old world than new world. So on the flavors now, let's go ahead and taste. And I like the way you describe the acidity, Catherine, but I also tend to drop my jaw down because I sometimes have a really hard time detecting acid. So I learned this trick where if I drop my jaw down like this, it just accentuates the saliva flow. So I can get a better sort of reading or calibration on that. And it's going pretty good. Wouldn't call it a fire hose or a fire hydrant, but it's like a good sprinkler system. So I'm going to go medium plus on this acidity. Alcohol is medium. I'm thinking it's almost on the high side, but after I spit it out, I do get a little bit of warmth in the back of my throat, but it doesn't last very long. So I'm going to go with medium on the alcohol. The body also has a nice roundness of texture. So, I think about light body would be skim milk, medium body would be 2%, and full body would be fully homogenized or half and half milk, half and half cream. And with this one, it's a little bit more than 2%, but it isn't fully homogenized. So I'm going to go with medium plus on the body. And then finally, the flavors, similar to what I had on the nose. Again, some floral, blossom, apple, pear, lemon, peach, grapefruit, vanilla toast, some dried fruit, and a little bit of honey. Nothing new. So they're all similar. And then finally, the finish. It's just a little bit short of long. For me, if it's more than half a minute, that's just my way of calibrating. But I tend to find a wine that goes more than 30 seconds or more is definitely a long finish. And this one goes right up to that point, but it's more like 25 seconds. So it's not quite the full length that I would expect for a long finish. Therefore, I'm going to give this a medium plus. All right, so just to reiterate, dry, medium plus acidity, medium alcohol, medium plus body, medium plus intensity of the flavors, and similar flavors that I found on the nose, and finally a medium plus finish. Now, using your Blick system, 4 measurements, definitely well balanced. The acidity keeps the wine nice and fresh. The alcohol is balanced; it's not high and overpowering by any means. The body has a nice kind of medium plus body to give it some richness and fullness. There's a good flavor intensity as well, so definitely balanced. Doesn't have the length, comes up a little short on that, but the intensity being medium plus, you do get a check on that. And then finally, it's very complex. Again, finding the primary, secondary, and tertiary. So that's all complexity in my mind. So we give it a very good. I'm also going to say that I think this wine has the ability, it can drink now, but has potential for aging. I just get a sense that this wine has something it's not quite giving yet. I think it's going to develop more tertiary notes, which will make it even more interesting. It certainly has the acidity to give it a longevity to keep it fresh. And there's no oxidative notes that, no nuttiness or sherry-like characters that might be apparent, even though they're starting to get a little dried fruit. So with that, I already mentioned, I'm thinking kind of, could be white Burgundy if I'm in the old world. And again, on the palate, the wine has a little bit of a reserve character. So white Burgundy could be one possibility. I often think of wines like this have a little bit of oak. Could be an oaked Chenin Blanc, like in South Africa. And for me, South African wines always have one foot in the old world and one foot in the new world. So sometimes you do get a little bit of a stony character. So I'm going to say possibly South African Chenin. White Bordeaux, again, a little bit of oak on a white Bordeaux. Could be a combination of Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon. Sauvignon Blanc, I would expect high acid, but this wine doesn't quite have the high acidity, but maybe the Semillon is tempering the acidity a little bit. And then the other one I'm just going to throw out there is kind of a shot in the dark, but a white Rioja. There are a lot of really nice white Riojas now I've confused many excellent white Riojas for Chardonnay before because the oak influence can throw you. It's got the good acidity that you might expect with Viura. That's not, picked too late or, picked just right when the acid's still there. So those are the 4 options. And Christian, if you want to put you see you've got it up there already in the 4 options. So I'd love to see what people think about of those 4 options. What do we have here? I'll tell you one thing, it's delicious. And Catherine, do you have any comments you want to make on this?
I just want you to save me a glass. Can I come over?
Yes. Put your mask on, please.
All right, so some great guesses. We have some people with Chenin Blanc as their choice. Chablis. We have white Bordeaux. We have white Burgundy. We have someone who's guessing Chenin Blanc from South Africa as well. Okay. And then someone who's getting very specific and says, this is a Montrachet. So if you're holding out on us, Peter, let us know.
All right. Well, let me tell you, I'll start off by saying what it is not. And for me, even though it has some oak and some Chardonnay-like fruit, if you notice, I didn't talk about any lees contact. I didn't get any malolactic or buttery notes. Typically, especially with a really nice white Burgundy, whether it's from Chablis or whether it's from the Côte de Beaune, you tend to find the more obvious oak from the Côte de Beaune, or at least some lees contact. And I didn't really pick that up in this wine. If it was South African Chenin, again, I think that's an excellent guess. The main thing there is, remember, the acidity of Chenin is usually very high. And sometimes South African Chenins can be made in one of 2 ways. It can be made in oak style like this, and then make a wine that's dry. But if it is in that format or that style, they tend to have high acidity. The other way is to make it with a more of an unoak character, more fresh fruity, and maybe just a hint of residual sugar. And the acid would still be there, but maybe the acid won't be as obvious. So being an oak version, being dry, I would expect a little more acid if it was a South African Chenin. So now we're between Bordeaux and we're between Rioja. And again, I'll say why it's not Bordeaux. This is a white Rioja. The reason it's not Bordeaux, in my mind, would be you might expect a little bit more herbal notes, especially with Sauvignon Blanc, maybe some grass and maybe some fresh herbs. Or it could be a very ripe vintage. In that case, I would probably get more. I did get peach, but I would probably get some nectarine, maybe some apricot. And again, a well-made white Bordeaux with some oak influence tend to have some lees character as well. And what this wine is, I'll put it up here, see if you can see that. So this is the wine from Alvaro Palacios. It's the 2017 Rioja, and they call it the Placette. It's a 100% Viura, and it's been aged for 12 months in neutral, well, I'm not sure, I would say pretty much neutral oak because it's large ovals. So there's no new oak, but there was some oaky influence there. So it might have been a little bit of new oak in a small amount. But again, in a large vessel, you don't get that lees contact. Also, this wine did not go through malolactic, as would be probably the norm with a Chardonnay. So there we go. I thought, I should mention this is a great wine. What makes this wine so good, obviously, he makes great wines. But the other thing is this, even though Rioja can get rather warm, the vineyard for this wine is at an altitude of about 1,500 feet. And if you're familiar with Rioja, there is some Atlantic influence that comes in as well to help kind of moderate the climate. So it can be sort of a continental climate, being hot, but at elevation and the closeness or proximity to the ocean, you do get a little bit of a maritime effect as well to moderate some of those hot temperatures. So there we go.
It was fun.
Awesome. Another great presentation from both of you. You got me both thirsty, and here I am only drinking water. I'm the one team member doing something wrong. So
well, now you can turn that into wine, Chris.
Exactly. Yes.
Christian,
yeah.
Right?
Well, thank you so much to all of everyone who played along today. Hopefully, you had fun. Great tasting notes. I know I continue to learn a lot from your great minds. So hopefully, we can have you back on a subsequent Wednesday. And don't forget Trivia Monday coming around next week. In the meantime, everyone, make sure you stay safe, drink well, and be kind. Thanks for joining us today. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.